Welcome to The Author's Journey with #1 international best-selling author and in-demand publisher, Rebecca Hall Gruyter. Today, we'll showcase the works of an amazing best-selling author, find out the story behind their book, and explore ways to bring your message powerfully forward. Now, here's your host, Rebecca Hall Gruyter.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to connect with you here on The Author's Journey, where we take time to connect in with amazing experts, best-selling authors, and they pull back the curtain to share with us what their journey has been like, what they've discovered, what they've learned, what surprised them on their author's journey. And they share that wisdom and insight with us. I'm very excited to have our guest today. I know he's going to share amazing insights and tips, and he has some great, exciting projects coming up we're going to get to learn about as well. But I want to take a moment before we get into the powerful content of today's show to support you in being able to get the most out of today's show. So let's take a moment and just breathe. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth like through a straw. Wonderful. Another breath. Great. And I do this just for us to slow down for a moment. In life, we seem to go faster and faster. And it's hard to be mindful and thoughtful when we're always in movement, always crossing things off the list. And so today, I want you to be poured into. This is your opportunity to have an amazing expert come alongside you and support you, pour into you. So this is time for you to receive. And so I encourage you to choose to be fully present, to take a breath, to really think about what you're wondering, what you would love to know from a best-selling author, what you would love to know from a teen coach, a teen expert. What are some of those things that you would really like to understand that would be supportive of you? So what do you need today to help you on your journey? Now just take a breath and take a moment to feel in. Choose to be fully present as we pour into you and share with you. And I encourage you, so extra credit bonus opportunity for those of you like that, those extra credit opportunities or an opportunity to dial things up, grab a piece of paper, a notepad, have the opportunity to capture those thoughts and ideas and aha moments as they come to you. Capture them real time, bring them into reality. So don't be shy about taking notes. It sometimes also helps us be fully present. And we'll take a breath again together. Beautiful. And I'm going to introduce our amazing guest. So Dr. R.J. Jackson is a board-certified orthodontist and a certified teen life coach. And so I love that mixture. He's helping teens smile from the inside and the outside, both directions. So powerful. Dr. R.J. has impacted thousands of teenagers, helping transform their confidence through his unique style of coaching. He's a podcast host of A Teen's Perspective. It's currently ranked in the top 25 for parenting podcasts. He's been quoted in major media as a top expert supporting teens. And he is a #1 international best-selling author who's committed to helping teens develop confidence, resilience, and a positive mindset. Please lean in and warmly welcome the powerful and dynamic Dr. R.J. Jackson. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I'm excited and thrilled to have you joining us. And I know how busy and full your schedule is. And so it's just a privilege and an honor that you are carving out time for us and for this conversation. So I appreciate you leaning in to join us today.
No, the pleasure is all mine. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. And I'd like to start with why teens? Of all the different groups of people in the world that you could have been called to serve, it's been teens that have really called at your heart, called at your spirit, called at your skill set that you're called to bring forward. So do you mind sharing a little bit about why teens?
Absolutely. And I like that you used the word called, because I really feel it's a calling. It's not like when I was in high school, my dream was to work with teenagers. But it was definitely a calling, almost this calling to work with this particular group of people. And I think it all started when I was in high school, just feeling completely lost. Like, my dad was amazing. He was a wonderful man. But, he was he had come from a military background, so he didn't show any emotion. We couldn't really talk about anything on a deeper level. Everything was pretty surface. And I just remember being like completely lost, like not knowing, how to manage any type of emotions, how to have certain conversations. So I found myself going to college and just like searching for some type of like, not only acceptance, but someone for me to follow, essentially. So I joined a fraternity, and I kind of just picked up after all of my, what the fraternity was doing. And it was an experience. And what really called me is when I moved to dental school. So then I moved to dental school, and then that's when I first got saved. I'm a Christian. And immediately from getting saved, I was like, I need to give back. Like, I want to share this transformation that I've experienced. And the first group that literally came to mind when I was praying was teenagers. And I was thinking like, hey, I'm not that far removed from them. So I'm not sure how much wisdom I have to share with them. But I started working with teenagers, and I've been working with them ever since, and been able to impact many thousands of lives of teenagers. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so beautiful to learn a little bit more of your journey and the calling and the steps that led to that, and that struggle that you had in high school and feeling alone at times and those kinds of things that started this spark in you. And then becoming a Christian and really seeking and praying, where are you called to serve? Who are you being called to serve? And it's been teenagers, and it's been teens ever since that you've been helping in so many different ways. So I'm also curious about some of your journey now, knowing that, because you stepped into doing that, it sounds like, in a variety of ways, including becoming a certified orthodontist and a certified teen life coach. Do you mind sharing about a little bit of how those happened and came together?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I remember the counselor asking me, like, what do you want to do with your life? And, I didn't have any idea. So, I was like, listen, I want people to be happy. If I can make that happen, then that's what I want to do. And so the counselor kind of thought for a little bit. And then she said, okay, you have two options to kind of, spread happiness. It's to be a comedian, or you can create smiles as an orthodontist. And, I never view myself as a funny person. So I'm like, yeah, that's an easy choice. So I chose orthodontics, and I literally stayed on the path. I didn't, shift or anything. I literally went straight to to dentistry, orthodontics. And then, it was very fulfilling because I'm working mainly with that, that teenage kind of group of this population. And really how life coaching came into the picture was a new experience I had. So I opened my practice back in 2013, and literally the next year, I had my first experience where a parent was like, hey, I want the braces off. And that was shocking for me because I just put the braces on. So, like, in residency, they don't tell you how to, teach you how to handle those situations. So I'm, panicking, what did I do wrong? And then the mom shared with me that her daughter was having an eating disorder, and the therapist wanted her to get the braces off. So we took the braces off and, didn't hear from the mom for probably about 8 months. And then she reached out to me and was asking, did I know any therapists? Because the current therapist just was not working for her daughter. And, so we referred to someone we knew in our network, and 6 months later, she's like, listen, therapy's not working. And she knew that I've always mentored teenagers through my church, and she was a Christian, I was a Christian, so she's like, hey, can you just, talk to her? I'm like, sure. And it was funny because the first conversation that we had, it a light bulb turned on for me. She said something that reminded me back of when I was in dental school and I experienced my first life coach. And so I literally hung up the phone, called the mom, listen, I know the answer. She needs a life coach. So her and I both Google search or searched like all the different, avenues to find a life coach in the United States, and we couldn't find none. So I remember, praying that night and feeling like, okay, like I think this is what I need to do. So immediately I went to training, and after my training, what confirmed I was on the right path is that 4 weeks after becoming a certified teen life coach, completely transformed her. So she no longer suffers from body image issues, no eating disorder, and then that was like my confirmation that I was on the right track.
Oh, so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I appreciate you move into action. Like you get confirmation, you get the message, and you move into action. And I appreciate that. Not everybody's like that. So how beautiful that is. And your ability to do that and your willingness to do that so powerfully impacted the teen that had that need. And now it's going on, and you've been able to impact so many teens. So I think that's so powerful. I appreciate your heart and your spirit and your willingness to move into those things and to bring them forward to honor that call. So beautiful. We are getting ready to go to our first commercial break. And as we do that, listeners, I want you to think about what Dr. RJ has said. And are you leaning into your calling? Are you leaning into it and putting action to it? I think that's something all of us can take a moment and reflect on, as well as thinking about those teens in our life and some of the needs they may have and the support that they're looking for. So with that, we will look forward to talking to you and continuing the conversation in just a moment.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Announcing a powerful new TV channel featuring programs designed to enhance and transform your life. Make powerful connections, one program at a time. And by doing so, we can bring transformation to the world. Tune in each week to Empowered Connections TV as we add new programs to help you make empowered connections of your own. Visit empoweredconnectionstv.com. That's empoweredconnectionstv.com. And make the most of an incredible life transformation.
Rebecca Hall Greider's Speaker Talent Search is looking for speakers wanting to get on more stages. With just one audition, you could open the doors to hundreds of speaking opportunities, reach more people, and expand your impact. Finalists get to audition live in front of leaders looking to fill all kinds of speaking opportunities. Apply now at SpeakerTalentSearch.com. That's SpeakerTalentSearch.com. We look forward to hearing your message.
The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you took that moment, that pause, to really think on, are you stepping into action? Are you checking and getting those messages that we receive, those pulling, those calls on our heart, and then moving into action? Sometimes we pause and we question and we weigh and we measure and we're not so sure and we stall. And it really struck me with what Dr. RJ was sharing earlier, how he checked, moved into action, and went forward, and the powerful impact he's had on so many lives and his willingness to do that. And I think that's something all of us can learn from and have an opportunity to take and put into our lives, and his commitment to supporting teens. And that comes through so beautifully and clearly. And your gifting, Dr. RJ, to feel in and identify what the teen needs, I think is also very powerful. And what you were sharing and identifying what it is, and then trying to find that support out there to discover you got to be that support, which is beautiful, and being able to bring that forward as powerfully as you had. And one of the ways, as you have continued your momentum as an orthodontist, supporting teens in that way, as a teen life coach, supporting teens in that way, building a team so that we can help as many teens as possible out there, you have also created a podcast called A Teen's Perspective. And you have teens that call in and engage in the conversation. Would you share a little bit about your beautiful podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the idea of the podcast. Mainly it came from a book, believe it or not. So my plan was I was working with teenagers for some time, and I really wanted to share some information with the parents. As a teen life coach, much of what I do, it definitely depends on the parents as well. So in other words, I could be working really well with a teenager about their confidence. And then a parent, not knowingly, could literally undermine everything that I've worked on. So it's like I wanted the parents to not only kind of see things from how teenagers can see the world, but also I think it would also help with their relationship. So my idea was to interview 100 teenagers and put it in a book format. And, I'm still doing that. But I was like, hey, instead of just interviewing them for myself, and then waiting to put it on a book, why not, start a podcast and the parents can hear the interviews live? And that's how I got the idea of A Teen's Perspective. I really want parents to hear it from the teen, how they view things. When parents are like, hey, you're in trouble, I'm taking away your phone, hearing what that means to a teenager, that's like their lifeline, So that's really what sparked the motivation and the interest for starting the podcast.
I love that. And you frequently will have a teen choose their name, because I know you're protecting you're creating a safe, confidential environment. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, because they are minors. So I do want to protect their information that they say. Also, I want them to be open because so parents can learn from it. So, I'm a big fan of superheroes. I love the idea of a superhero. As we're going to talk about a little later, How to Train Your Superhero obviously has the theme of a superhero. So at the beginning of the show, I let them pick a superhero's name, and that's what we would I would call them by so that it can protect their identity.
I love that. And they're getting to choose and claim that as well, which I think is really a powerful experience. They get to be a superhero name on the show as they're sharing.
Yeah, and I also asked them what superpower they would want as well.
Oh, nice. I love that. And so thinking back, because I know you've done so many of these beautiful podcasts, it's been highly ranked, which is wonderful, and it shows how powerful your show is. Is there just a moment just to give those who have not listened to your podcast yet an idea of an experience that really struck you and impacted you that you had on one of the shows?
Yeah, what comes to mind was one of the kids I interviewed. We were talking, and the conversation came up about him not sharing things with his parents. And his parents would get mad because they would obviously think that he has something to hide. He's doing something wrong. So then they'll put the tracking on his phone. They'll constantly check on him. And, and he really shared something that even for me kind of opened my eyes, because I never considered this perspective, is that, he wants to feel like he's independent. So it's not that he was necessarily hiding things from his parents. He admitted to not doing anything wrong, but he wanted to feel this sense of independence and feeling like he doesn't have to share everything with his parents. Some things he believed that it should be kept for just him. And it really shared a complete perspective because, I believe if parents knew that, then they may still want to know information about their child, but they would approach the conversation differently.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because you're right. We can look at things through our perspective and why are they not sharing everything? What's going on? and not recognizing that's part of their establishing who they are and their independence. It's not necessarily they're trying to hide something that needs to be hidden. Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And you touched on a little bit about the superheroes. And I know that this ties into your book that you recently released, How to Train Your Superhero. It was released, published, launched, became a #1 international best-selling book, which is just amazing, the reach that it had so quickly. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about this book and who it's for and where people can find it, and maybe something that is really that as it's gone out into the world, it's been so powerfully received. So maybe a response that you got that really struck you.
Yeah. So the audience is actually 9-year-olds to about 12. And you may be asking, like, wait a minute, I thought you were teenagers. Now, in the space of working with teenagers, naturally, I work with preteens, just because there's certain habits that are formed that if I was able to reach them a little sooner, we would have more of an impact. So naturally, I do work with preteens, what we call them tweens. So the book is actually for those tweens.
Yep.
And the idea of the superhero really speaks to that population as well. And the gist of the book is something that I discovered a long time ago that I thought was probably the most magical, discovery I've ever found in life. And that is that happiness is not based on the things that we get. It's not based on our environment. It's literally a choice, and it's something that is accessible to everyone. And when I discovered that understanding of an emotion, it literally changed my entire life. Because, obviously, when we look in the world, certain things are just unfair. When we look at the money, we look at, food. Sometimes, some people have more food than others. But the one beautiful thing about our emotions is that we all have equal access. And part of our emotions, one of those is happiness. So we all have equal access to happiness. And I really wanted to share that discovery with the tween population so they can learn it early.
So powerful. And being able, knowing they have equal access, because you're right, we can not have that to all things. And so knowing that and owning that and being empowered to make those choices and recognize we're making them, because sometimes we're making the choices, we just don't know it. And so recognizing that is so powerful. And I love that you've written it in a style that is engaging for those tweens, as you call them. So I love that. And it's graphically very engaging. Do you mind describing the cover?
Yeah, so it's a picture of basically 2 or 3 kids. Sorry, so 3 kids, and then next to them is their superhero. And what it goes to show is that there's basically 2 worlds that we live in. And in the book, we try not to get too detailed into this information because we don't really want to confuse kids. But ultimately, we all know as adults that we have the physical world that we live in, but we also have this mental realm. A lot of what happens to us happens in our mind. So the idea of each child having a superhero is basically they have a superhero in their mind that can overcome certain thoughts that makes them feel sad.
And this is empowering them on that journey to discover that and have their superhero support them in that so they can make that choice for happiness. And do you find that as they're engaging with the book, their confidence is being built as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know one of your earlier questions, you asked the question about what kind of feedback I received as far as the book. And that was, one of the common themes is that their child, they just noticed a completely different child. Like the child was much happier, much more confident. And the reason why is because ultimately, we talk about this superhero in your mind, but we know that confidence, happiness, everything starts in the mind. It literally starts with the thoughts that you have in your head. If you believe that, you have a gift to share with the world, if you truly believe that, then, you would go out and share your gift. But I believe most people, or at least especially kids, they have so many thoughts telling them that they're not good enough, that they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough. And they're literally having to listen to these thoughts over and over, and it literally holds them back. So whenever we teach them about their superhero in their mind, they can literally combat those thoughts and even introduce other thoughts or the opposite thoughts, that I am beautiful, that I am smart, that I can do and accomplish anything I want. And the book really goes into detail about that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you sharing the feedback, the vision of the book, what it's already doing in those tweens' lives and helping empower them to do. And I wanted to go back to, one thing actually before I shift the conversation a little bit. Anyone who is interested in getting a copy, wanting to add this to their library, I want to make sure we let them know how. So how can they get a copy?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. So they can go to Amazon and they type in A Teen's Perspective. I mean, I'm thinking about my podcast, How to Train Your Superhero, and then they can purchase it there. They also can purchase on my website, which is drrjjackson.com.
Okay, perfect. And then while we're on it, how do they find your podcast?
Yeah, the podcast. It's on all the major ones, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but they also can visit the website. It's A Teen's Perspective Podcast.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just didn't want anyone left hanging that wanted to make sure they were tapping into those beautiful resources. So I want to reflect back on your journey, because you are answering this call to support preteens and teens so beautifully in so many different ways. And part of that has led you to work on multiple books now, it sounds like, that you're working on putting together. And I'd love for you to share what it was like to bring your first book forward and to have it so powerfully received, to have it become a #1 international bestselling author. When you just reflect on that, is there something about the journey that surprised you, that you didn't really anticipate? Because I'm thinking of those future authors that are listening. That would be great for them to know, or something that surprised you. It can be great. It can be, wow, I wish I would have known that. Anything like that come into your heart and mind to share?
Yeah, as far as the surprise, not much surprised me, but I thought it was a perfect example of, I practice what I preach. So when I coach teenagers, I always teach them this technique of how they can start to get motivated about something they dislike. And the reason why I want to share that is because I literally hated writing and reading growing up, hated it. And I remember starting, feeling this burning urge to just have to put this message out. And I fought it for a long time because I didn't enjoy writing. But I was reminded, when I'm teaching a teenager, and the cool thing about being a teacher or even a coach is that when you're coaching or you're teaching, sometimes you get messages that's for yourself. You're sharing with them, but in the moment you're thinking wait, that's for me. And I remember thinking you know what? I'm teaching you guys how to do this. I need to do this myself. So I use the same process that I teach the teenagers to be able to have a positive view of writing so I can enjoy it. And sure enough, I did it. I finished the book. And it's been a very fun and wonderful journey. And I'm looking to write my second book this year.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I love that. And I love that not only did you find a way to motivate yourself to do it, but to enjoy doing it. As well. And that's really powerful that you found a way to do that part of it that you were most resistant to, and to do it in a way that brought you joy and meaning in the process. Love it. So any tip that you have for any of our upcoming authors, or they're working on their book, or someday they want to bring it forward, any piece of advice or tip you can give them?
Oh, absolutely. So I believe as a writer, you go through these periods of creativity, and, you feel great and you write, but then you also go through periods where it's just not there, and you lose motivation. And sometimes it could even be, feeling this feeling of insignificance, hey, no one's going to read this, no one's going to care about this information. So my encouragement is regardless of anyone to read it or not, put it out there anyway. But the key, I believe, to continuing the momentum of writing a book and staying consistent to write it is being inspired. I believe inspiration will naturally bring excitement and motivation. And as long as they can stay inspired, I know for me personally, me coaching teenagers inspired me. It kept me feeling excited and motivated to get this information out. So just find something that inspires you, and I believe that would help you along the journey of writing.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. We are getting ready to go to our next commercial break. And as we do that, I want to invite you all to think about that book, that message that's being called to bring forward. And I love that. Bring it forward anyway, share it anyway, and find those things that inspire you. So take a moment to write down some things that help you tap into inspiration. We'll look forward to continuing our conversation in just a moment.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
Rebecca Hall Greider's Speaker Talent Search is looking for speakers wanting to get on more stages. With just one audition, you could open the doors to hundreds of speaking opportunities, reach more people, and expand your impact. Finalists get to audition live in front of leaders looking to fill all kinds of speaking opportunities. Apply now at SpeakerTalentSearch.com. That's SpeakerTalentSearch.com. We look forward to hearing your message.
Announcing a powerful new TV channel featuring programs designed to enhance and transform your life. Make powerful connections, one program at a time. And by doing so, we can bring transformation to the world. Tune in each week to Empowered Connections TV as we add new programs to help you make empowered connections of your own. Visit EmpoweredConnectionsTV.com. That's EmpoweredConnectionsTV.com. And make the most of an incredible life transformation.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet talk radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had an opportunity to put down some ways that you can find inspiration for you and harness that and be able to bring your message, your book forward. And with that, Dr. RJ, I was curious if you mind sharing what are some ways that you find inspiration and motivation for yourself just to help them with some ideas?
Sure, yeah. So I would say coaching really gets me inspired. Just being around teenagers, getting a chance to really help them to accomplish their goals. I get super, super excited and inspired. If you ask my wife, I probably talk about, have these conversations almost all, 90% of our conversations. I'm always talking about something along those lines. But also, I get extremely inspired by Christian music, believe it or not. I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. I believe God has led me this far. I believe everything that I'm doing is actually a gift that He's given me to share. So when I listen to music, worshiping Him, it really inspires me to take action and do more. So I would say those two are definitely the two that I go to for inspiration.
Beautiful. I love that. So really in the work and using your gifts, that inspires you and energizes you. It sounds like to increase excitement and you want to do more. And then as you're worshiping and praying and using music to help facilitate and support and uplift as well, I think that is powerful. And one of the things you mentioned earlier in the conversation, you were talking about how sometimes when you're coaching, teaching, you're sharing a message, but the message is for you too. So I think listening to those, not just letting it pass by, but listening to that as well can be great for growth, but also probably those moments that inspire as well. I love that. So I encourage listeners, think about those things for you that and help you tap into inspiration. And don't forget all the senses and the listening and hearing and music, and pay attention. I'm curious about this because you work so much with mindset and choice, Dr. RJ. When is it important that we're paying attention to what information we're choosing to take in, listen to, experience, as well as what we're choosing to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, I always tell the teenagers that life is about focus. Wherever we choose to focus our attention, that's the experience of life that we'll have in that moment. And, if a teenager is looking at social media and only looking at like what they don't have or what they don't look like, they will experience at that moment life that's not as enjoyable. But if they can shift their focus, then they can find inspiration, they can find excitement and happiness. So I'm a big believer in, the paying attention is a big part. And actually, we touch on that in the book, and when you're training your superhero, that's actually one of the first steps to train your superhero. So, I can tell Rebecca's read the book because that's what we call a superhero workout. It's practicing paying attention to your thoughts and how you're thinking about certain experiences. So, no, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I think this applies for all of us, not just the tweens, not just the teens, but all of us and writers and creators, that we're really paying attention to what we're focusing on. And is it serving us? Is it uplifting us? Or is it creating unhappiness? Paying attention to our choices there and what we're feeding ourselves. So also, I wanted to touch on the best-selling campaign, because you decided to not just publish your book, but to launch your book and to share it with the world in a powerful way. And I know authors, all of you that are listening, there's choices about publishing and just releasing your book or launching your book, which includes a process of driving traffic, building buzz, excitement around the book as it's being released, and looking to bring it up the best-selling ranks. And so it includes some of that marketing promotion strategy that's included with it, just for those of you who are familiar with a best-selling campaign. And I'd love for you to share why you decided to do that and what that was like.
Yeah, so, the early advice that I shared is that, when you're writing a book, especially for the first time, you will go through this period where you're thinking, like, why am I doing this? Like, no one's going to read it. My advice was just, hey, put it out anyway. That's just to get you to the point where you finish it. But then when you finish it, that thought will come back again, and it becomes a reality, because you're thinking like, hey, how am I going to get this message out? And that's why I think it's so important to invest in your message, invest in the message by finding the right team that helps you get it out. Because, as an orthodontist, I'm a big believer in being a specialist. I put, as an orthodontist, our specialty is straightening teeth. Sure, a general dentist can straighten your teeth, but it will never be to the level of someone who's doing it all day, every day, and that's all they breathe is straightening teeth. So same thing for me. I'm sure I could have went out there and posted a few things on my Facebook, but it could never have been to the level of what you guys have been able to do. So my encouragement is to invest in your message so that people will hear your message, read your book by hiring a great team.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And personally, what was it like to see it go up the ranks? I'm always curious what that experience is like for people.
Honestly, I would say that it wasn't, as I mentioned earlier, I was not surprised by anything because I felt like when I met you and your team, I had full belief. And then I believe it's almost like the pilot, right? Like when you're flying and you're experiencing some turbulence, as long as the pilot is okay and cool and not panicking, I think, I'm cool. And that's how I felt with you. I mean, your sense of confidence, like, no, we'll get it out there. We'll get out there. And that confidence alone, I'm like, yep, I have full faith. So watching it was just more of like, yep, that's exactly what I expected, And it was obviously, it was still exciting and rewarding, and we celebrated it with my family.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I always want people to enjoy and celebrate. And I'm glad that was a positive experience, that you were comfortable kind of letting the pilot lead. And we were very honored to work with you and bring your book forward and celebrated too the success of it. But I appreciate you sharing that, because it's just a different experience for everybody as they birth and bring their book forward and make those decisions, and then what that experience is like. And I just have so enjoyed talking with you today. I appreciate the sharing, the wisdom, the insights, your commitment and passion for preteens and teens, and your willingness to really support them and use all of your gifts you've been given to help them step forward confidently, resiliently, powerfully forward in life. And I would love for you to share just your contact information, ways that people can connect with you. I know we talked a little bit about where they could get your book, how they can look up your podcast, but I'd love to just run through all of that again and a way that they can connect with you and go deeper.
Sure, yeah. So for a Teens Perspective podcast, as I mentioned, you can find it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, but also you can go to the website, which is teensperspectivepodcast.com. As far as a purchase of the book, How to Train Your Superhero, you can visit my website, drrjjackson.com, or search on Amazon. And the best way to connect with me will be Facebook or Instagram. My handle is Dr. RJ Smile, whether you use Facebook /Dr. RJ Smile or search at Dr. RJ Smile on Instagram.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So those are the best ways that we can connect in. I'm also curious, is there a way that we can follow? Because I know you mentioned a few things that are coming, including a book that will be out later this year. Are those the best ways to follow you as well, to stay abreast of things that will be coming and released soon?
Yeah. Facebook and Instagram are my two main platforms that I use. But also, if it's a parent out there, I do have a Facebook group. It's called A Teens Perspective, and we jump, in this podcast. This group, we actually talk about some of the interviews on the podcast. So if you're interested in joining other parents, then you can definitely join this private Facebook group.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate the work that you do, your time today, and all the different ways that you're building support for the preteens, for the teens, and for parents. It's such a gift to the world. I appreciate you leaning in, making so much available. We're looking forward to your upcoming book that will be released later this year. And I want to thank you for sharing from the heart and spirit today with us, Dr. RJ. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's been a wonderful experience, so thank you so much.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you. Thank you for leaning in, being part of the conversation. I always feel like it's a conversation we're all having together. I hope you got some great tips and insights from what Dr. RJ has shared, and some great resources that you can tap into and reach out to. We are always here to support you and encourage you on your journey. If we can help in any way, we're always happy to do so. You can go to our website, yourpurposedrivenpractice.com, yourpurposedrivenpractice.com, and you'll see a button there towards the bottom of the page where you can set up a time for us to talk. Would be happy to do so. Any way that we can help you bring your message forward and your gifts forward, we are absolutely honored to be part of. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll look forward to continuing our conversations with powerful best-selling authors week by week as we get to share and bring that message forward. Have an amazing week, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to The Author's Journey. Please join Rebecca Hall Greider for another edition of the Author's Journey podcast every Monday on the Voice America Variety Channel. And until we talk again, use some of the tips and inspiration from today's show to guide you as you lean in to bringing your message forward.